When I bought my first F-150, I made a huge mistake that almost cost me $15,000. In this video, I'm going to show you guys some of the top things that you absolutely need to know, the stuff I wish I knew before I bought an F-150. Because the mistakes that I made are the exact mistakes that other people are making all the time. But make sure you keep watching to the end of this video because I'm going to show you guys the horrible disaster I got myself into because of the lack of knowledge that I had. The first thing that I wish I knew is how to buy a truck. Many of you guys like to buy new and many of you like to buy used. It doesn't matter, what I'm going to mention is going to cover both. I think the first question is, where should you buy from? A dealership, a mom and pop dealership, a private seller? The reality is all of the above can still scam you. But buying from a Ford dealership directly is probably the safest place to get a truck from, especially if it's a certified pre-owned truck. As I'm sure you guys are aware, the used truck market can be sketchy. Don't let that scare you though. With a new truck, at least you won't have mechanical issues to really worry about, and it will be under warranty. However, you need to figure out exactly what you want, so you aren't oblivious when you get to the dealership. Make it very clear to the salesman that you do not want them to start the truck up for you and get it warmed up before you get to look at it. This is so you can hear if it's got any rattle on cold start or if it's making any other strange noises. So what exactly are the most important details that you need to know before you get to the dealership and you buy your truck? Well, there's only a couple things, but I've deemed them probably the most important ones that you want to remember. For engines, there's the 2.7 liter EcoBoost, there's the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, and there's a 5.0 liter V8. There also is a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter in the older years and a naturally aspirated 3.7 liter V6 in the newer years. But we're going to leave that aside because if you guys are watching my YouTube channel, you know that we are all about performance and nobody cares about a naturally aspirated V6. The 2.7 liter is powerful, it's reliable, and it gets good gas mileage. The 5.0 liter is powerful, it'll tow pretty well, and it's pretty reliable also. And it has a lot more capability to make power if turbos or a supercharger are added. And lastly, the 3.5 liter is powerful, it tows very well, and it's very reliable. My best suggestion is to go drive each engine, and then you decide which engine is the right one for you, what you're going to be doing, and what you're going to be using it for. The gear ratios might arguably not be that important, but I feel that it is. A 315 rear end is not going to tow as well as a 373 rear end. I like the 355 gear. I had it in my 2.7 liter. It's got a good balance of power off the line and power while at highway speeds. If you're confused with what I'm talking about, let me explain it a little further. A 410 gear, you're going to have excellent acceleration off the line. But when you're at highway speeds, let's say 60 miles an hour, when you floor it, the engine will be working much harder and revving much higher to get the wheels to spin. A 315 gear is the opposite, just like the gears on a bike. This is probably something you're not going to notice unless you drive a truck with a 410 gear and a truck with a 315 gear. So just make your choice based on your needs and your wants. Lastly, there's trim packages and small details. For this, I'd recommend driving different trucks, looking at different trucks, maybe looking in the interior of the trucks, going to the dealership and just looking around. Maybe you like the Lariat, or maybe the XLT is more your price range. You get the point. Do your research and figure out what you like best. When I bought my new red truck, I was extremely specific. I was extremely specific. At the time I was buying, these trucks were flying off the market faster than I could find one to look at. I chased a couple down, but to no avail. Finally, after searching online for several weeks, I found one meeting all the criteria that I had, and I asked it to be held so I could look at it. I wanted an XLT because that's what I had before, and it's all that I could afford at the time. And I wanted a 3.5 liter EcoBoost, and it had to be a 2021 to 2023 year range. I wanted heated seats, and I wanted the big touchscreen on the inside. I also wanted a 355 rear gear. Being specific and firm at the dealership makes the buying process much faster and smoother, and it helps you be decisive and ensures that you're going to like the truck in the future. Something else that I really wish I knew before I bought an F-150 was how to take care of your truck. You guys have heard me mention this before, but changing your truck's fluids like your transfer case, your transmission, your differentials, your oil, your brakes, more often than not, is imperative. And you're going to keep your truck much happier in the long run. There's also some other things that many EcoBoost owners and truck owners in general don't know that I've put into a video that you guys can go ahead and check out at the end of this video. Now, before I tell you about the #1 topic that I wish I had known about before buying my first F-150, I'm gonna need you guys to hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. And that topic is modifications. I mean, who doesn't like to modify their truck? That's why you're here watching my YouTube channel, because we modify trucks and we make them fast. First of all, any modification will do nothing to increase the truck's horsepower until you tune it. Yes, people showcase a horsepower gain on a dyno after putting an intake on or whatever it is. And yes, the truck gains some horsepower. But once it learns what you did, and it usually doesn't take very long, the computer will bring everything into control and it will still make the same amount of horsepower as it did from the factory. I have examples of this where I installed upgraded turbos on my 2.7 liter EcoBoost and ran it on the stock tune. It made the same airflow and a little less boost than the stock turbos did. And you guys gotta agree that upgrading your turbos is like the biggest, most crazy mod you could do. Better than an intake, better than exhaust, better than downpipes, better than anything. And it still made the same amount of horsepower. The truck wasn't any faster. Does that mean the turbos weren't big enough? No, of course not. That's because the truck was opening the wastegates a little bit more to let more exhaust through so that it wasn't making as much boost as the stock turbos were. It was controlling that airflow so that it would make the same power as stock. My suggestion is if you want more power from your F-150, get a tune first, then add all your mods. Something else I know a lot of people don't know is that these trucks do not need a dyno tune. All you need is a custom tune from one of the reputable companies like ZFG Racing, Unleashed Tuning, MPT Performance. A custom tune is going to be built based on your driving styles and habits through data logging and will be tailored to your liking. Dyno tuning has its place, but for these trucks, it's not necessary. When I bought my first truck, I didn't know anything about mechanics. I got a 2012 F-150 with a 3.5 EcoBoost engine in it. I wanted a V8, but I drove that 3.5 EcoBoost and it changed my mind instantly. I bought it from a value auto dealership that was kind of tied to the Ford dealership. It was kind of a strange deal, but that was probably not a wise choice. A couple months after owning it, it started to act weird. It started idling funny, started going into limp mode at different times, and it also started throwing a bunch of codes. I had a mechanic pull the valve covers off, and to our shock, the engine was completely coated in sludge. The previous owner had not changed the oil at the appropriate intervals, and it had completely damaged the engine. It cost me $1,100 just to have the mechanic pull those valve covers, and it had me even more nervous thinking about how much an engine replacement was going to cost. Thankfully, the little value auto dealership was involved with the Ford dealership, and they were able to get the owner of the Ford dealership down there, and they took that truck and offered me either a new engine in it or my money from that truck into a new truck. And since I saw the abuse that that truck had had, I chose to go with a new truck, and I got a 2016 2.7 liter EcoBoost. And that is the truck that you guys know so well from all my racing videos. Well, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys all have a very Merry Christmas. Make sure you check out the link right after this about what 90% of EcoBoost owners don't know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.